Today's tutorial is for the brand new pattern from Backstitch and Baste. This is the Praxis Crossbody. It's a super cute, fun pattern. It is simple enough to be enjoyed and sewed easily in one evening, but it's fun enough with a couple different techniques that you don't get bored sewing it. You just have a really enjoyable time. So let's look over this version and then we'll start sewing the sister to this one in today's video. We have a zipper pocket in the front. It's only going to go halfway, so when I open it up here, you can see that it could perfectly fit your keys, a pack of gum, a small wallet, just some little things like that, and it's not too big that everything's going to get lost in it. Then we have a slip pocket here with a flap. Again, it's half the size. This one can easily fit the same things. On the back, it's kept simple. I added a tag onto mine. You could easily add different things if you wanted to, but the pattern is written for this to stay blank. 2 crossbody connectors there at the top. The pattern also gives you the options to add those to the sides if you don't like them on the top. A main zipper here. And the lining is just left simple, no pockets or anything in there. Of course, you can adjust as you want. So the way I'm going to do this tutorial is I'm not going to go over the pieces ahead of time, but I'm going to leave this bag up so that we can reference the pieces and where they will go here. I feel like this might be an easy way to know where things are going to go without being overwhelmed with all different pattern pieces all at once. Hopefully it will help people that want to know the pattern pieces and where they go on the bag, but also help the other people get a little overwhelmed if I go over too many all at once. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to work on this section here with the flap and this slip pocket. I'm going to pull out the slip pocket pieces first. That's going to be your piece D. So for piece D, I'm going to have 2 pieces. I'm going to have an exterior and a lining. I'm choosing the same print. You can choose whatever, but on your exterior piece, add a layer of SF101 or equivalent. You really kind of want to stick to the pattern recommendations for interfacing because there are some spots that get a little bulky because we're building onto this bag. So a couple of the seams will have a little extra bulk. If you're using vinyl, I definitely wouldn't add anything to it. It wouldn't need it. So I clipped these right sides together. I went ahead and marked a T for my top, and I did one other thing. You will need to decide what you want to do as far as a snap placement. You could use a magnetic snap or a cam snap. You could go ahead and add the snap now. If you're doing a magnetic snap with prongs, you would have to add it now because you wouldn't want to see those prongs through your lining. I'm going to choose to have my cam snap, just like I did on this one, where it goes through both layers on the flap and on my slip pocket piece. That's just a preference I have because I feel like it's a little more steady. So for me, what I wanted to do was I wanted to use the pattern measurements to mark this location first so that it was easier for me so that I wouldn't have any trouble figuring out the placement after I've started sewing things together. So now that I have that placement marked, I have a T for the top, I have it clipped right sides together, I'm going to sew along the top only with the seam allowance given in the pattern. Once you have those 2 pieces sewn together, you're going to separate them. And I'm just going to finger press that seam open. You could take it over the iron. And then we're going to flip these wrong sides together and then top stitch. All of the prints I'm using today are a cotton canvas. This print is from Jane R. Edwards and the other feature print is from Jane R. Edwards as well. This print and this print are just matching pieces that I had in my sewing room, not for sure where they came from. So this is going to be the exterior. I'm going to top stitch on it just along that top edge, and then I'm going to baste the 3 unsewn areas. So that would be the sides and the bottom. Now that I have this sewn, I'm going to go ahead and add the cam snap through both of these pieces. This will be my exterior. I chose to add the female portion here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out the piece that this is going to sit on. So the piece that this is going to attach to is going to be C. This is your front panel main, and I'm grabbing the exterior piece. Your front panel main, C, comes with 2 pieces as well, an exterior and a lining. Same thing I did for everything in here. For the exterior, I added the SF101. For the lining, I didn't add anything. This is that other print from J. R. Edwards. You're going to take this right side and you are going to match it up exactly with the right side of your piece C. So your piece D is right sides up and your piece C is right sides up. We're matching up this right edge. We're also going to match up the bottom, but the pattern also gives us how far down this pocket should be. So check that placement with the ruler to make sure it's correct. Before we sew this, I want to point out that this left side, you will have an overhang. You definitely should. That is intentional because we will utilize that overhang here in a little bit whenever we're sewing this all together. So definitely make for sure you have that overhang. All we're going to do with these two pieces is we're just going to sew down the right side with the seam allowance given in the pattern. You can see I've only attached it on that right side. I'm going to set this aside and I'm going to pull out the flap and go ahead and make it. Just like I did with this one, I'm mixing up the contrast and print. For these two pieces, I'm going to have it be the same print as well as the back, and then I'm going to use some coordinating prints as well. You can choose however you want, but I feel like the coordinating prints and mixing it up just kind of adds a little bit more fun to this pattern. So for your flap, you have two pieces, exterior lining. I did cut the lining piece out upside down so that whenever I flip the flap up, it will be the correct orientation. On your flap piece, you will need to make a mark for where you're going to place your snap. The measurements are given in the pattern. I went ahead and made mine. If you're using a magnetic snap or if you want your cam snap to only go through one layer, go ahead and install those now. If you're like me and waiting and going to have them going through both layers, just make sure you make the mark before you sew everything together. On this piece, I went ahead and drew on the seam allowance because I feel like at these pivot points at the corners, it's easy to get confused as to when you should pivot. This just makes it a little bit easier, but it's completely unnecessary. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave that top unsewn and we'll sew down the sides and the bottom and up the other side to get this piece sewn together. After we have that sewn together, the pattern tells us to just go ahead and trim off some of the corners there so that we have a little less bulk. After you've trimmed up the corners, go ahead and turn this right sides out. On the flap and your back piece, the designer gives you a separate pattern piece in case you want to add additional interfacing like Decaville light or fleece or anything like that. That interfacing would be kept out of the seam allowance. I'm using a cotton canvas and I really felt like mine was sturdy enough and I did not feel it necessary for me to add any more, but definitely if I was using maybe just a cotton woven, I probably would have wanted to. Taking the time to just fold everything flat, roll out my seam. What I'm going to do now is top stitch around the 3 sewn edges and then baste the raw edge closed. So here is how that flap looks. I'm going to go ahead and add the other snap to this side now. We're going to pull back out this piece and what we're going to do is have this staying right sides up. Take our flap, have it right sides up, and we're going to center it along the top here. So when we center this piece on here, our snaps are not going to match up yet. That is designed to be that way, so don't be alarmed and don't try to snap your snap in place and then sew it on. You can see that they're slightly off and that's exactly what we want. I'm going to double check my measurements real quick and then we're just going to baste across this top edge to secure the flap to this piece. As a reminder, we should have overhang here. We should have snaps that do not match and this piece should be unsewn. Now we're going to start working on this zipper pocket here. I have a piece of zipper tape. This is the smaller piece of the zipper tape. The larger one's going to be the main opening. I do have a pull already on it. And then I have my piece B's, which is the zip pocket front. One is an exterior, one is a lining. Again, SF101 on the exterior, nothing on the lining. Let's go ahead and just do this like a traditional pocket we would do. We'll take our zipper tape and we will place it right sides down. So it'll be right sides together with our piece B. We're going to center that zipper tape on this piece and we're just going to baste it into place. This is how this looks right now. If you want to make for sure you have it the way you want, just kind of flip it up and check to make for sure the pull's going in the right way and everything looks good. Now typically I don't have my pull on at this point and I have my zipper tape cut a little bit longer. I am following the pattern exactly just so you get a better representation of how the pattern goes, so my video follows a little bit more along with the pattern. But just know, you can keep your pull off, have a longer zipper tape, and then add the pull at the end. Now take your lining piece and simply place it right sides together with that exterior, matching up the top and the sides. You can add a few clips here, double-sided tape, and then now this time you're going to sew along that edge with the full seam allowance given the pattern. You definitely, if you have the pull on, should move it at one point so there's not any problems with waviness with your zipper. I'm actually going to flip this and sew this with those zipper teeth right sides up so I can make sure I'm getting as close as possible to it. Now that you have those pieces sewn right sides together, separate them. Get everything straightened and pulled down. I'm going to add some clips just so it'll lay flatly. And then we're going to top stitch. I'm going to top stitch along this top edge that we just sewed, and then I'm going to baste down both sides and across the bottom. Pull out that remaining C piece. Your other C piece is right here. That's the exterior. This is the lining. So place it right sides up and then take this piece, place it down on top of that right sides up, and it should match exactly. So go ahead and clip it into place, matching up the top and the sides. And then we're going to baste all around this piece to connect the two. After we do that, then we can trim up the zipper overhang on the end. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take these two pieces and attach them just like they are attached here on the front. I'm going to take this piece here and I'm going to place it right sides down onto this piece. We are going to match up these two sides. Let me move my zipper out of the way. So we are matching up the basted side of this pocket with the left side of our zipper pocket. So these two pieces are going to match. And we're going to sew them right sides together, just along that side. Use the seam allowance given in the pattern. And so you can see this is what I'm talking about, a little bit of bulk comes in here. It's not bad, just a little bit. So now we can open this up, and then we can take this pocket, this slip pocket piece, and we're going to lay it on top of our zipper pocket. Smooth this out, and we're actually going to top stitch down this side here. So we're not top stitching on this slip pocket, but we're top stitching on this C piece that has the flap. You should not be sewing over your flap or your slip pocket, just on that C piece. If we've done everything right, we will flip over that slip pocket. It should match evenly now, and we should be able to snap our flap perfectly. I don't know if you can see that, but now it fits. I'm going to go ahead and snap it into place. Make sure everything lines up, clip that, and then we're going to baste that into place, or baste it down, I should say. So we will just baste down this side and across the bottom. That's the only two pieces that need basted at this point. If you have any overhang at the bottom like I do, go ahead and trim that up now. Now we are going to be adding this top piece here along the top. So that is going to be our piece A. You only have one piece A, and it should have an SF101 or equivalent on the back of it. I'll try to see which orientation I like best. I think I like this one. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have it looking the way it's going to look in the end, and then just flip it down. Clip along that top edge. You can match the centers here, but it should fit pretty decently all along that top. And again, you're going to sew with that seam allowance given the pattern. Now there is a bump here. I want you to make note of that whenever you're going from the flap to this zipper pocket piece. Just be careful so that it doesn't slip and you lose any, like get any wonky stitches when you're coming off that flap piece. Now what you're going to do is you're going to push that top A piece up, and we are going to top stitch on that A piece all along that edge. Your seam should be going up, so you should be top stitching the A piece and the seam. This is how that front looks. You can see the front is complete now. Now you're going to pull out your two D-ring tabs. I want to show you how these look. You have a pattern piece for them, and it's cut like this, then you just fold the two long edges to the middle. It's a single fold. Now we're going to top stitch down the long edges, and I'm going to go ahead and baste the short edges into place as well. The pattern calls for 3/4 of an inch hardware. If you wanted to use 1 inch, you would have to make adjustments to your connectors. So I'm just going to slip that connector on and then fold the raw edges together. So the connector actually will be slid into the middle, and then it will be folded wrong sides together, meeting at the top. Now let's pull out that back piece. Here is my back piece. You only have one of these. I have an SF101 on the back. That's it. The designer does tell us that if we wanted to put an extra piece of fleece or Decaville light, she has a separate pattern piece for it, and it would be kept out of the seam allowance. I did not feel like I needed it, but I do see where it could be beneficial. You can see on the back of mine, it's not a problem. Mine's a little soft there, but not an issue at all. I do have a tag on here with vinyl underneath it just for a decorative touch. The pattern gives you the measurements for how far you measure in on each side as to where to place these D-ring connectors, and she also tells you how much of an overhang they should have. I'm following those measurements exactly. I'm just going to baste my two connectors into place. This is how your back should look. So now our front and our back and our lining, since we're not doing any of those, are all complete. Pull out your zipper. This is the main zipper at the top, and I do have a zipper tab on each end. The zipper tabs is another pattern piece, and you just take it, do not add any interfacing, and just fold it so that the raw edges meet in the middle, and then fold again to make a piece of double fold tape, and then just slip the zipper edges in. Cut your zipper, of course, to the pattern measurements, and make sure you add your pull. Now I'm just going to sew on my zipper tabs by sewing just 1/8 of an inch away from that folded edge. I'm just going to trim off the little bit of extra zipper tab I have on each side. I sewed this one on really crooked. It's okay, it's not a big deal, but that was really of a sloppy sew. Now what I want to do is I want to pull out this front exterior, and I want to center my zipper tape on the front. I'm going to have my zipper right sides down, so they're right sides together with the pull closing to the left. I want to take some time to make sure I have it clipped evenly and the centers matched. So now I'm just going to baste this zipper tape onto the front exterior. Now that we have the zipper basted onto the exterior right sides together, let's pull out our lining pieces. I have 2 lining pieces, nothing on them. It's a cotton canvas, so I didn't need to add any interfacing. If yours is a thin cotton woven, you may would want to. But what we're going to do is we're going to take this lining piece, place it right sides down, so that the exterior and the lining are right sides together. Match up everything along the top. This time you're going to sew with the full seam allowance, and you're also going to make sure that you move that zipper pull out of the way while you're sewing so that you can get a really nice stitch on these 2 pieces. Here's how that looks. Now it's time to top stitch these pieces. You have a couple of options. You can top stitch, which is what I usually like to do whenever I top stitch through the exterior and the lining. But I've been getting so much bulk lately in my patterns where I have this problem with pushing it out, and I really don't like the way it looks. So I'm going to try to start getting used to top stitching only through the exterior and the seam allowance. So I'm going to flip that seam allowance so that it's going down to the exterior, and then I'm only going to top stitch through that exterior and from zipper tab to zipper tab. I'm hoping this will help me get better corners at the top. It's just something that I've really been wanting to improve in my sewing room, just those little details, I guess you should say. This is how that looks now. I'm going to put that lining back down. I'm going to complete those same steps off camera and do the other side to attach the exterior back and the back lining piece. Here is how this bag looks. It is so super cute. I'm ready to put it all together. So I have the exteriors, have the linings. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my exteriors, place them right sides together, and let the linings go right sides together. I have my zipper opened about halfway, just so it won't get in the way while it's sewn. The hardware won't get in the way, and then also so it's easy to open whenever I'm turning through this bag. I'm going to take the time to clip this side seam first. This is the main important part that I want to match up. Everything else I'm okay with. So I'm going to go ahead and just tack down that area right there where that seam is, just so whenever I sew the rest of the bag, it doesn't shift. So clip it and then just tack it. You can just do a basting stitch here. That's just going to try to prevent that area from shifting there. Do the same thing on the other side. This side shifted a little already whenever I was sewing it. It's not too big of a deal. I'm going to leave it just by like a 1/16 of an inch, but that's how quick it shifts. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sew the linings together and the exteriors together. We're going to leave an opening in the lining. So we'll start sewing here and then go all the way around and then come back about right here. Make sure you backstitch when you start and stop, but use the full seam allowance given in the pattern. When you come up on these side seams, they're already tacked down, but you still should not be going through the zipper tab at all. So make sure you know where that zipper tab is and make sure you're not sewing through it. So now you have a choice to make. You could go ahead and turn this right sides out and close up the opening and be done, or you can choose to box the corners. I'm going to choose to box the corners. It's a very small box, so it's not really super big. It just adds a little more depth. So we'll do the side first because my hand's right here and it's easier. So I go inside and I'm going to pull these linings apart and I'm going to open these seams. And I'm actually going to stack the seams on top of each other. So you can stick your finger in there and then stack the seams, press flat, and then I'm just going to add a clip in place. I want to make sure everything's open flat. And while it can't lay like this, so it's going to lay twisted, I'll still make sure that I separate that spot so it is flat. Then you're just going to sew with the seam allowance given in the pattern. You see how I have these V's, or I hope you can see those V's there? That's not what I'm considering the seam allowance. That part in the middle is what I'm considering the mark for my seam allowance. If you need to trim those overhangs off, you can. But then you just sew across there. And then you trim up that extra and you can see it's a straight line there. That is how I'm going to box the corners. I'm going to do that for the other 3 corners. Then I will reach in, pull it out, and I will take the time to press these side seams out, and hopefully I'll have a little bit less bunching there since I didn't top stitch through both. And we will turn it out and then I will come back and show you how this one looks and see if it looks as cute as this one. My Praxis crossbody is done. Look at how cute this is. It's adorable. So we have the flap on the front, the snap matches perfectly, the zipper pocket. We have the tag on the back, 2 crossbody straps. I'm not making a crossbody strap in this video. I'm sure we all know how. And you may want to choose to even use webbing, so it's not a big deal. Inside's completely open. On this one, I chose not to do the top stitching through the lining. I'm trying to get more comfortable with this. I don't like the way it looks as much, but I do love the way that my corners are a lot softer and they look a lot better. The pattern tells you can do either option, so you have the choice, but this one feels stiffer and it just looks like this one looks pointed out more or poked out more. But on this one you can see I did top stitch and I love the way that looks. So I'm curious, which way do you like? Which way do you do? Do you top stitch through the exterior and the lining, or do you just do the lining? It's something I kind of want to work on perfecting and getting a little bit better in my sewing room. Love this pattern. This is so cute. I was able to make both of these in one day. They are so quick and easy and fun. I love the way that you can showcase fabrics without using a lot. You're using just a little bit of fabrics. This is a super cute pattern. I think little girls would love it, teenagers too, but it's just such a fun, cute pattern. I hope to make plenty of these for my craft shows. I think they'll be a really good seller. Thank you for watching another tutorial of mine. I hope I made the tutorial one that you can follow easily with the pattern. I hope it motivates you. If there's anything you would like for me to do differently in my tutorials, definitely let me know. Fabrics The cherries and the owls are both from J&R Edwards. The coordinating prints were just ones I had, probably things you could buy at your local quilt shop. Zipper tape, this one is from Altelia. This one I think is from Mormino. The pattern is the Praxis Crossbody from Backstitch and Baste. I'll have a link for the fabrics and for the pattern in my description. And I hope today in your sewing room that you're able to try a new pattern. I'd love it if you try this one and post in the group. I'd love to see your creations for it. But no matter what you sew, I hope you just enjoy your day and have a great time sewing. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful day.